Running a little late here, but we'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. So first item is introduction of late items. We have the Greyhound discussion, which will be put as 10C. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
One more comment.
Yes, Councilor Green?
In the agenda, it shows approving minutes from the February 20th meeting, and those aren't available for tonight's.
I've got a note down for motion to postpone to the next meeting on that one.
Okay.
Okay. So motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Just a point of order.
Yes.
Couldn't that just be struck on the agenda before it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that as well, I guess, if you want. Okay, so the motion will be to strike it from the agenda? So do I do that at the time, or do I do that now?
You could do that now, strike that, and then adopt the agenda as amended.
Okay, so a motion to strike the February 20th special council meeting minutes. And I'll need a mover and a seconder on that.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And then a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Carried. Next item on the agenda is the reading and approving of the February 13th regular council meeting minutes as presented or amended. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that?
I'll move them.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any corrections? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor as presented? Okay. I only had one raise their hand, so I'm not too sure. Okay, carried. Okay. All right, next item is petitions and delegations. Linda Fry will be speaking with us about the Dore River Recreation Area and the need for an application to the Ministry of Forest, Lands and Natural Resource Operations for a license of occupation.
She's making me do it, you know, because I get to be Linda today. So obtaining this license of occupation on the 5 kilometers of road will mean that instead of forestry removing the bridges and deactivating the road, they have promised to repair the bridge at 17 kilometer and replace the one at 18 kilometer with a pedestrian traffic bridge. Okay, so we've already, the MCCD have already replaced the bridge at 15.8 kilometers, financed by community donations and volunteer labor. So Ministry of Forest has upgraded the road from 0 kilometer to 13 kilometer, and they will continue to maintain that. This services the Eagle Valley Trail. The final 5 kilometers that we're asking to maintain gives access to the trailhead at the Avalanche Valley Trail, a trail that gives access to Caribou Lake, the Tilted Rocks, and Roberts Glacier. Glaciers and rock formations of international renown are in that area. The Osalinka Hiking Club is also building a cabin out in that area as well. So we want to keep this road open, ensuring continued access to these areas by tourists and locals. So, cost of maintaining this 5 kilometer road consists mainly of once a year spot grading, once every 3 years brushing, and yearly attention to keep the culverts clear. We have a significant amount of volunteer labor that's already donated for this, and we have some funds in reserve. So this is going to be something that doesn't cost the village anything and will be of significant benefit to the whole valley.
Thank you. Before you sit down, Danielle, council, any questions? Our regional district rep?
No, I'm chamber president now.
Well, you got to tell me what hat you're wearing. The chamber rep. Councillor Thompson?
A couple of questions for
I may be able
Chamber
to.
President. What are the responsibilities for the Chamber once a license of occupation is approved? You've indicated once per year grading?
Spot grading, you know, any pieces, every 3 years brushing and yearly attention to the culverts or as needed to the culverts. So that's basically it in perpetuity. If there is a major problem with the road, we can simply stop access, close the road until either the road is repaired or period. You know, we can just close off access.
Okay. If I've just got a couple of written down, I may as well finish off. If I
Okay,
may.
go ahead.
So, through the chair, what are the anticipated costs of the Door River Recreation Area maintenance, and what revenues support these costs? So there will be annual costs, and they do go on into forever.
Perpetuity?
So how,
I don't have a breakdown for you, but we're estimating less than $1,000 a year. And again, that cost can be reduced through volunteer labor, through partnerships with the Ozalinka Hiking Club and such. So we do have funding available for that. As well, there will be, once the Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development, thank you, finishes putting in those 2 bridges, any remaining funding will go towards maintaining the road. So there may be some funding there as well.
okay. Continuing on, if the village provides a resolution of support, is there any further commitment required of the village of McBride moving forward?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And my final question through the chair, is this area within the community forest footprint, and is a letter of occupation the best way to go? So there's 2 questions in there.
Okay, so first of all, it's not a license of occupation for a specific area. It's a license of being able to maintenance or of occupation for 5 kilometers of road, period. We've also submitted a request for support to the McBride Community Forest as well. Some of this area is within their footprint, but this has no bearing on their operations whatsoever. And we're not, we have no access or intended access to the rest, to the backcountry that's serviced by that road. It is simply our intention to maintain 5 kilometers of road with a footbridge.
Thank you, those are my questions.
Councillor Ruby?
Have you checked in to see the perpetuity liability ramifications for the chamber?
Yes, we've seriously considered the liability ramifications, and they're not so severe that we can't live with them. You know, it is, and we can't guarantee what's going to happen into the future. You know, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we don't know what's going to happen, but we would definitely hate to see this amazing area be cut off to hikers and travelers, because we're not willing to take this opportunity.
So Danielle, with in regards to the use of the area itself, so it's basically for foot traffic for hikers and stuff. It's not it's not accessible to sledders, because there's some pretty sensitive.
To a certain point, to a certain, up to the 13 kilometer
Okay.
that the forestry is maintaining, you know, they're maintaining it to their standards. After that, the 5 kilometers of road, I think there's 1 vehicle enabled bridge, but most of it will be a footpath, and the last bridge is going to be for foot traffic only.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council, any other questions?
One that's just a ribbon from the...
Okay.
So at the end of the 13 kilometers, I have to apologize, I'm not totally familiar with that 13 kilometer mark, but is there parking?
There will be a bridge right up into 17 kilometer, and then if the bridge at 18 kilometer will be foot traffic. So at that point, generally we've been putting in parking areas along with porcupine fences, because porcupine fences are apparently a thing, because porcupines eat vehicles.
Only the rubber.
Apparently the rubber is really important to the guy that walked out 13 kilometers.
Something about
and
the pressure hoses, you have to have them.
apparently, as the guy told me when he said that a porcupine ate his truck and he needed help.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, questions from the public and the press. We have one tonight. It's Beth Frederick, and it's regarding agenda item 8AD.
Councillor Edwards had a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Edwards, I didn't see your hand up.
Yeah, I had it like
Yeah.
this. I just wanted to say that I'm totally in support of keeping that access open for the public. I think your budget is probably low. Those trails really need quite a bit of upkeep, and as long as it, I mean,
The trails
there's
themselves,
no-
we're not responsible for keeping up the trails themselves. Just that 5-kilometer stretch of road.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, you'll go through that budget pretty fast. But as long as the village doesn't have any exposure there, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Sorry about not seeing your hand. All right, so we'll move on to Beth Frederick.
Hi, my question is regarding the letter from Gary McFarland. I had a similar situation happen. I think you all got the letter on Monday. And I just wondered what is going to be done, and if nothing is going to be done, is my next step reported to the RCMP that stop signs are being run, and I think the Public Works have to obey the laws as well, and they appear not to be, and it's a real safety concern.
Okay. My understanding is your letter came in after the timeline, so that's the only reason that it's not included in the council
I
agenda.
understand that.
And it will be included in the,
Next week, yeah.
in the overall, or however we deal with this situation.
Gary McFarland's letter, he had the same concern, so is anything being done?
It'll go to administration for report and follow-up. Okay, I'll give that to you. All right, so we've got no unfinished business and several reports in there. Council have any questions of the CDEC or Public Works, seeing as they're here? Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, I do. First, I'd like to update my report, because I forgot to include that I was in a 3-hour workshop this afternoon. And
I'll be included in your next one too?
It'll be included in my next one too, because I got another report tomorrow, so it's 2 days. Anyway, I have a couple of questions. One for Public Works, and it may come up later. When I'm reading the Public Works report through the chair, I had a question of where snow removal on the airport falls within the hierarchy of our policy.
To the policy.
Actually, it's included in here. Yeah.
What page is that?
It is attached to the RCMP report, which is...
Page 33, 34.
There we are.
I guess I'll just, if I can just elaborate, I just noticed that the report said that a lot of time was spent on airport snow removal, yet airport snow removal doesn't show up in our policy, and if we're going to be reviewing that moving forward, I think that that's a point that needs to be included in that discussion.
Okay, a note's been made of that. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
And also on the same report, just again, it's snow removal, and I know everyone's tired of snow removal and snow. Spring is coming. But I'm going to suggest, only because I just traveled through a community that was clearing snow, and they had invested in advanced signage, what do you call those, sandwich board signs that they put up on the street indicating that snow removal was going to be occurring on this street in the next day, and they put the date upon which that clearing was going to occur. and it gave the public some advance notice with regard to getting their vehicles off the streets, and that Public Works was going to be active with the equipment, and I was suggesting that might be something for administration and Public Works to consider moving forward.
Thank you.
And then I had a CEC question.
Okay.
This one, I guess, is through the chair. Karen, just a minute. It's with regard to the economic development highlights of the 2018 budget. I was reading all kinds of exciting things, like 22,000 new child care spaces, and wondering how many of those are coming towards McBride. I also had some questions with regard to the rural development program, and noted that consultation on the strategy is ongoing and scheduled for completion by March 31st. And through the chair, Karen, do you know how and when that consultation is occurring, and is there an opportunity for public input?
I don't. So that's, when I was reading this report, I went, wow, there's something here I need to look into more. So I don't have information on that, but I will find out and get back to you on that.
Excellent. And how many daycare places we will be getting?
Well, we do have a person who's moved to town who is meant to provide daycare, is interested in opening the daycare, so we have some promise there for sure, which is exciting.
So just through the chair, perhaps that's something that politicians could be pushing with the politicians at the provincial level, not to forget small rural communities which also are in need of daycare spaces outside of Hope. We hope to get one or two also.
I think they've got, they seem to have a lot of direction, but not a lot of intel on how they're going to get there, so I'm sure that'll be flushed out in the coming months. So can I get a motion to receive the reports for information?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. So the next item on the agenda, we have several letters here regarding snow removal. One is, oh, sorry, wait a minute here. First we have to do the license of occupation. So on page 29 of your agenda package, the motion reads that council resolve to support the McBride and District Chamber of Commerce application for a license of occupation to ensure that access to the Dore River recreation areas are maintained. A mover and a seconder, please.
Luca.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that, having had my questions answered.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll move to snow removal. So we have a letter from David Ruby, who's our fire chief, a letter from Kyle Yushak, who's our corporal at the RCMP office, and a third letter from Gary McFarland, who is a concerned resident. The motion reads that council direct administration to review the current snow removal policy, as well as the snow removal policies of similar municipalities, and bring forward a report at the next regular meeting of council. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Thompson?
I just want to note on a positive note that I did notice that fire hydrants have been dug out and they've all been labeled with little sticks pointing up, and I think that's a positive move. And I'd also like to note the better signage on the back of vehicles indicating that stay back, and I'm hoping that with the continued work with the RCMP in the village that we can improve our processes moving forward into the next year, because we're done for this year.
Oh, that's optimistic. I mean, I like where you're going with it, but that's really optimistic. Okay. Any other comments, council? Call the question then. All in favor? Carried. All right, so we have some information only, and then we have some outgoing information. So we'll move on to bylaws, permits, and policies. The first one is bylaw number 775.2017, Board of Variance. Motion reads that council consider and adopt bylaw number 775.2017, Board of Variance. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. The next one is bylaw 777.2018, a 5-year financial plan from 2018 to 2023. Motion reads that council give bylaw 777.2018, a 5-year financial plan 2018 to 23, its first reading. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Ruby.
I hate to belabor this, but I couldn't hear anything last meeting, so I still have questions. The 5-year plan includes 15,000 for staff training.
Which page are you on?
I'm on 70.
70?
Yes. Or is this just the capital that we're talking about right now? I beg your pardon? We are discussing just the capital, or we're discussing the entire budget?
The entire budget.
Okay. So my
Absolutely.
question is, on page 70, we have 15,000 for staff training.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the total, or is that indicative of the other two? There's a 6,000 for water and
No,
a
this
6,000
is,
for...
yeah, there's, and then on top of that, there's each section is its own entity idea, so
Okay,
this
so
is
we
the
have
general.
27,000 for
That's
staff
right.
training that we can work with.
Yeah.
Where are we on the list of everybody's training?
Well, actually,
List.
Public Works would probably be able to speak up to that better than I can, but I do know that what we did budget for was to get the two of the top people cross-trained so that they would both be cross-trained in the water part of it, and then the sewer, and that was each of those courses basically costs about $3,000.
Okay.
So we have 2 water and 2 sewer. And then we've just done some ground disturbance and confined spaces, is that right? So we have 3 of the members up to date, of the Public Works, up to date on both of those. And
I'm sorry, you've got ground disturbance and confined spaces, and 2 people are up to date on that?
3.
3 last week.
3.
Clint needs 4 water tickets. That's mandatory coming from Northern Health. We had to have 2 people trained to a level 2 standard. And I think it's similar as well with the sewer. In case one person gets sick, someone else has to step in and cover the other person, vacation, sick days, whatever.
So
But,
Clint still needs 4 water
Clint needs
certificates?
4 water tickets.
Okay.
When Travis left to kind of give us a shock, he had all the tickets and we were just starting out. So Clint started with the sewer and I started with the water. Now we're gonna cross-train. I'll do the sewer and he'll do the water.
Okay, and you need 4 tickets for sewer?
No, I need 2 tickets for sewer.
Okay. Okay. The next question was, so are we still going to get that nice little chart of where everybody is?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I personally am not in favor, the upgrade lift station, does that include the camera?
Yes.
On page 78?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to state that I would prefer to see a business case for that camera before I would really be happy to support it.
Okay, so...
Which I know can't come this week, but at some point in time. And my last question on page 81, the cemetery fence. Was this for the post and rail, the 35,000?
I think it was the It was the chain link and included the installation.
No, did not include the installation.
No, we were given 17,000 for the stainless steel or galvanized steel, and then it was like 20-something for the coated fencing, and then the additional money was, we rounded it out to 35 to cover the installation.
We covered the installation in there, yeah.
Okay.
So Matt didn't realize that. Yes, because I think what the quotes on the others were quite high. So, cedar split rail fence set in concrete, where you were looking at about $43,200, and I think that's not including GST tax. And a pressure-treated fence using 4x4 post and deck, three rail design, set in concrete holes was $39,600. And they quoted this as the large gates to be reused, or 1 or 2 new gates to be designed and built or brought designed to, and there'd be additional pricing on that if we were changing the gates. Yeah. So you've got 43 to, just over 43 to 40,000 for a wood.
So roughly an $8,000, sorry, yeah, roughly an $8,000 difference between split rail and chain link.
Well, yeah.
Okay. From this seat, I think a chain link fence around a cemetery looks awful. And I would prefer to see split rail. But that's just me.
Maybe that's something we'll have to have some more discussions on.
Page 81.
Yeah.
Yes.
First reading for that one, and then second.
Okay. Yeah. That's something we can bring forward and amend on the next reading if we want to then. Okay, any other questions, Councilor Ruby?
I think that was it for this round. I'll probably hit you again next round, you know me.
Okay.
Council, quick question.
Sure.
Through the chair, for the, just clarification, the camera business case was just the train station or all the locations for the cameras?
No, the sewer camera.
Sewer camera, oh, I'm sorry. I
The
thought
sewer
you said
camera, I would like to-
security camera. I think it
No,
said
sorry.
sewer camera.
Too many cameras running around, yeah. The sewer camera, I really would like to know
Okay.
what we see as use and
I was
cost.
just going to inform everybody that that was a $10,000 item. So you'd be looking at it decreasing up by $10,000. Because the other lift station upgrade is needed.
Yes, the motherboard, I don't have a problem
Yeah.
with that.
All right. Councilor Green and then Councilor Edwards.
Okay, through the chair, going through this, there was nothing in there for the gas tax money. Are we going to be applying for that, or does it come automatically?
I can certainly come to this. So the gas tax money has to usually be, it's not in your general budget. It has to actually go for more like your, correct me if I'm wrong, but more for your sewer, your water, I mean, for, yeah, I'm going to say environmental kind of
I know
issues.
we've used it before for seal coating. They
Not
went
since I've been here.
in 2016, it was used towards seal coating, because they put 100,000 and they used the gas tax money for hard surfacing versus dust control and all of that other stuff, so that happened. Okay. And the question I have, and this is something that can probably be looked at, is since we need to replace some of our light standards, the fact that we're going from these high power lights to looking at going to LEDs, which is more ecologically friendly, And, you know, going from the 360 degree to just, you know, darkening up above. I'm wondering if those would qualify for use with the gas tax money.
I could through the chair. They're fairly flexible with the application, provided it can be seen as green.
Yeah, and
So-
that would be a green initiative.
Yes.
So that's sort of what I was thinking, is since we have to replace some light standards, if we're getting about $75,000 for gas tax, then based on how much it costs to replace each one, maybe we could look at that as part of our whole program.
Through the chair, so the gas tax, I believe, usually is in June, is that, I'm thinking, that application, and it's usually the CAO that does the application, so that's definitely, but I don't have that in our budget because we haven't really looked at what the cost was to replace any of that lighting, but that would certainly be something that we could put forward.
Or we could put an allowance in the budget.
Yeah, I think
Forward, yeah.
And the other thing I noticed going through here, I didn't see the garbage truck purchase or the loan for it, or...
Yeah, it is actually up here in,
I did.
it's the loan payment. It's the first year payment because we were looking at doing a 5-year loan.
Okay,
So we're,
when I looked at the income, I didn't see the money coming in as an income.
no, well,
I guess
right.
I don't understand the keeping with that, so.
Yeah, it would have to go under loans. No, it's not in here. It's not a grant.
And there's no payment either that I saw.
It's under capital, that's why. Because it would be considered a capital expenditure. So
So if the money's going out,
if we get the loan right, and the
Yeah.
interest should be, I think that was the loan and the interest payments actually went out, but no, I did not put it in there.
okay. And that's the only comments that I had.
Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Thompson.
I had a question. I still want to see the business case for the sewer camera, but I remember you mentioned it before, and I can't quite remember how having that camera helps us.
Well, we can't see underground when we have an issue, so having a camera can pinpoint problem areas. I don't know, Radloff was here a year ago, gave a presentation wanting to dig up the entire alley from Columbia Street to behind Travelers to the fire hall to fix it all. If there's only if we had a camera, we could pinpoint exactly where these issues are. Instead of doing, for example, 500 meters of sewer, maybe we only have to do 4 30-meter sections and cut costs that way, as well as upcoming problems in the future. We have a lot of issues where the homeowner says it's our problem. We say, check our manholes, our main is empty. A lot of times it's right at the connection or on the property owner's side, and we spend a lot of time each year trying to decide if it's their problem, if it's ours, and usually end up dealing with it quicker than, you know, if we had a camera to show that, yeah, it's your issue. This is our line is clean. If you like, I can burn you a CD and you can go in the house and see the inside of our lines. They're good, they're well maintained, and then that takes the pressure off. But more so for locating issues in the future and fixing them, knowing exactly where to dig. Instead of doing an entire line, do a section.
Okay, thank you.
I've got Councillor Thompson and then finance. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to correct something that Councillor Green had said, that you're not going to see that loan in this revenue, on this, because it's a liability.
Okay,
So a liability is not included in the budget part.
okay.
So the actual expense of the liability would be, which is the loan payment, but not, it's
Okay,
not
I just
revenue, it's
needed
not
to
revenue
understand.
getting in, it's a loan, so it's a liability. Sorry, I don't know why I was thinking it should be in there. Or should it be? Not there.
Gotcha, off guard.
So you're not going to see it on here?
Yeah, it's just that when I did the books for library, we would have put the loan in, and then we would have shown it
It
It would have
is.
been like a double entry,
It-
because our expenditure would be we had the money come in, we bought the capital item, so the income equals the expense, and then it would all balance out eventually. But however you do your books, I just wasn't sure how you did it versus how I.
Well, it's not an actual revenue, is what it is.
Okay.
And it's not a grant. It'll end up being a liability, and it goes into your bank.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
So not to continue the issue, but I'm looking at page 65. And I guess I'm just trying to understand it. Maybe you've already answered it, but maybe I just don't get it.
I'll try.
So under the chart, under Schedule B, there's a category called proceeds from borrowing.
Right.
So if we are borrowing for a purchase, would there not be an amount shown, a percent shown there?
Yes.
And then that amount would be shown under the dollar value at the other side, which would add up to the total?
Yes.
So am I correct in assuming that there's some work to do on Schedule B?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions, council? Okay, so call the question then. All in favor of the first reading? Carried. All right, so we'll move on to new business. The first one is the cancellation of the May 8th meeting. Excuse me, motion reads that to cancel the regular council meeting scheduled May 8th, 2018 due to council's attendance at the NCLGA annual convention. So can I get a mover and a seconder on that, please?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Next item is a report to council on retention of the provincial government offices. First motion is council receive the report. Can I get a mover and a seconder on receipt of the report?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And then the next one is a motion that council keep the provincial government office open to the Economic Development Action Plan, and further that keep the government office open committee be established to determine and implement procedures to increase provincial government positions within the community of McBride. Yes.
Because this is perceived as a conflict of interest on my part, because I'm a provincial employee who's actually a tenant within the facility that's going to be discussed, I need to recuse myself from all
Okay.
discussions and decisions.
Okay, can I get a time for when Councillor Green recuses herself?
7:39.
7:39.
Thank you. All right, sorry, so I left off as I need a mover and a seconder on that motion.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Councillor Thompson?
I believe that a discussion needs to be initiated by this level of government, the council, with the provincial government to start off with, particularly the various ministries that are serviced by that government office, and as well as the Minister of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development. I don't know their acronym these days. Because increasing the services to rural residents should be a priority of this government, and it should be relayed. We should relay that message to the provincial government. I'm not sure that a keep the government office open committee at this point in time is the best way to go. I think that we need to have a government-to-government discussion about our concerns with regard to the future of those positions in that office, and from information gathered from a government-to-government discussion, that we could then move forward with a more precise action plan of what we need to do as a community to retain and add services to that facility.
Councillor Edwards.
We're currently in the process, as most people know, of going through an economic development plan, and this exact topic is one of the things that we discussed this afternoon, and will probably be as part of that economic development plan. So it will be one of our goals to. I shouldn't say that for sure. If I have anything to say about it, it will be one of our goals that we carry on into into the implementation phase of the economic development plan. So I'm not sure if this is if this motion that we're discussing is the right one. I agree that it is urgent and past time that we should be looking at this and encouraging the provincial government to return some of those offices to McBride. Because some of us remember what it was like when we had more of those government services, and it makes a difference to the community. Furthermore, it speaks to the issue of the imbalance between the resource revenues that leave all of the rural areas in BC, and those revenues flow to the bottom left-hand corner of the map, and not very many of the southwest. Not much of that money comes back and is invested in the communities, and I think that we need to do something to encourage that, and I just don't think this is the. I think that we have a plan in place, or that will be coming out of the economic development plan, that will approach this issue.
Okay. Sorry, just a second. Are you finished, Councillor Edwards?
I am.
Okay, Councillor Murphy?
And I agree with both of them that it's vital that we start the discussions with the province, that we need to keep these positions, fill them back up. But probably a committee is not the way to go. I think we can rely on the Economic Development Action Plan to include this, but I don't have a problem with also initiating the discussions, having them ready to go to LCM, GA, and UBCM.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if a committee is the best avenue for this. One of the things that council should be doing is setting up meetings with the Ministry of Transportation and all the ministries in the shared services building, and relaying our concerns that these positions keep going out of town every time somebody retires or gets another job, and relaying our concerns that rural communities need these types of jobs because they do keep our communities viable. So in my mind, the best avenue would be to start the conversation between the local government and the provincial level to address our concerns. Although the jobs are important in the Economic Development Action Plan, I don't know if that would fall under something that our Community Economic Development Coordinator would be doing. I believe that it would be more councils and in lobbying the government to maintain these positions in McBride and the area. So I'm not in favor of the motion for that reason. However, I do think that we need to start setting up some meetings at the provincial level, even prior to UBCM, and I think we need to do it in fairly short order. Otherwise, we will be missing the boat, so to speak. So those are my comments on it. Any further comments on it? I will call the question then.
I
All
have an
in...
amendment.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Okay.
I'd like to propose that we amend the motion to read that the council keep the provincial government office open to the economic action plan, period.
So...
In other words, don't establish a committee.
Okay. So Councillor Edwards has moved that. Is there a seconder?
I will second it. I have a question.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Thompson. And go ahead with the
Through
question.
the chair to Councillor Edwards. Is the intent of your amendment to keep it on the table and allow the options open to how we pursue this?
Yes.
Thank you. Then I will be voting in favor.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment first. All in favor? Carried. And on the main motion as amended. All in favor? Carried. All right. And that, oh, and the Greyhound discussion, so.
7:47.
At 7:47, thank you.
Susie finds her.
Turns. Just 1 second for Councillor Green. She, apparently we couldn't find her. Oh, there she is. All right, so we're moving on to the Greyhound discussion, Councillor Green. So we don't have a motion or anything that goes with this, so it's a discussion brought up by Councillor Thompson on the Transportation Board's decision to terminate Greyhound passenger bus route that that services McBride and area. So Councillor Thompson, did you want to lead the discussion, please?
Yes. As people may be aware that the Passenger Transportation Board last week, I believe it was, I don't have the exact date, approved the elimination of several routes within the central and northern British Columbia areas serviced by Greyhound, as well as some other areas serviced on the Vancouver Island between Victoria and Nanaimo. Those don't really affect us. However, those traveling along Highway 5 from Valemount through to McBride and Prince George, and others traveling from McBride through to Prince George will be affected, because as of July the 1st, those routes will be eliminated, those passenger transportation routes. This is very concerning to myself, because it definitely limits the accessibility in for residents of McBride and area. And I know that Greyhound used the argument that other services like the health bus were taking away from their ridership, and they just couldn't afford to continue doing it, etc. But they're going to continue with parcel delivery, etc. This leaves the north central area, particularly from Prince George through to the Alberta border, without a passenger transportation service of any sort. And I would suggest and ask for council's support to do probably two things to start off with. Number one would be to have the Village of McBride write a letter expressing our concerns with regard to the decision made by the Passenger Transportation Board to the Minister of Transportation, and ask that the Minister of Transportation immediately investigate the implementation of a passenger transportation system in those areas of the province where Greyhound has withdrawn. And secondly, I would ask that we investigate whether we can have a late resolution brought forward to the North Central Local Government Association requesting the same. That the NCLGA take to UBCM the direction to try and get approval on expansion of passenger transportation service in areas vacated by Greyhound. And those are just my two initial thoughts. Bringing them forward after hearing the rather disappointing news of the board and where we are moving forward.
Is that the original one there? Because this one has a one-pager, but I know that the other one had more than
This
one.
is just a one-pager.
Okay. I know that they had minimum route frequencies, and they had instructed Greyhound for two separate routes, one which might affect our area, that they had to come up with. So maybe we should be inquiring about following up on that to see if that's already in play. I'm not too sure. Just with the way it was worded, it was kind of vague as to what the routes looked like, but it looked like that the Ministry of Transportation had instructed them to look at a couple other different routes. So I was wondering where that would play into it. I'll have to.
If I may, I think that you'll find that the Greyhound routes from Prince George through to the Alberta border and Belmont are gone.
Yes, the ones that were going once a week or twice a week or something.
Yes.
But I thought that they had a minimal level routes that they were going to, that Greyhound was asked to do. So they still have some follow-up to do from the MOT decision, and I wasn't too sure if our routes were going to be included in that. But either way, we need to ensure that we do have some type of passenger service and transportation available for those that don't have vehicles, definitely. So I agree with both of your proposed motions. Council, any other comments on it? So would you like to make those into a motion then? Oh, sorry, Councillor Edwards?
Could I hear the motion again? Which one are we doing two at once, or what?
Well, right now there are no motions, we're just discussing.
Just discussing, but Councillor Thompson had said that the village write a letter expressing their concerns to the Ministry of Transportation and ask the Ministry of Transportation to immediately implement a passenger system where Greyhound has withdrawn its services. Is that accurate reflection, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, it's an accurate. I would probably change that from immediate implementation, because nothing can be implemented immediately.
Okay. So don't worry about immediate then?
Implement in a timely manner or something like that.
Okay. And you're moving that, I take it?
If we're at that point, beyond just having a discussion, yes, I would move that.
Okay. Can I get a seconder on the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion on that, on the motion? Councillor Edwards?
I'm going to vote for it, but we had a similar comment when they were discussing doing this, didn't we? Didn't we write a letter saying that we were against this plan? Seems to me we did. And so I don't think this is going to be very effective. But if everyone in the northern region, if all the villages do something similar, then that puts some political pressure where it's bound to do some good. But I'm just wondering if there's anything else that we can do.
Well, I was doing two separate motions here, but we could maybe amend the motion if Councillor Thompson agrees to, and we can add in submitting a late resolution to to NCLGA and then to UBCM on it, or we could do, I was going to do it in 2 separate motions.
I prefer to do it in 2 separate ones.
Okay.
But I've said enough.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Through the mayor, follow up to Councillor Edwards. We did submit a letter, or we supported the letter from the regional district and the city of Prince George with regard to the comments that they had made. But that was prior to the meeting. That was to sort of suggest that to influence the passenger transportation board. Now that the board has made their decision, I think that small communities need to give the direction or the discussion with the Ministry of Transportation that now that we don't have a public transportation system, the Ministry of Transportation needs to act to fill the gap. It's a different letter.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. All in favor? Carried. So the next one will be, you've got some wording in mind for a late resolution to?
Like, through the chair, I don't know what the resolution deadline was for NCLGA. Has it passed, or is it? I'm guessing it's passed.
Friendly one has.
It was a medium soft reminder for February 9th.
Okay.
There may still be room to get one in.
So, through the chair, since this decision was made, I believe, after the deadline for resolutions, that it would be appropriate as a late resolution to NCLGA to ask the Minister of Transportation to address the the passenger transportation void left by the withdrawal of Greyhound in British Columbia.
Passenger transport void left by, and sorry, what was the rest of it?
The withdrawal of services by Greyhound. I changed it. And the wording of that resolution would have to, the actual wording going to NCLJ would have to have all kinds of nice whereases and therefores and why nots and what the heck's in there.
I'm sure.
And we're looking to our interim CAO to put forward a gold star resolution on this.
I'm sure you could gussy it up for us.
And just to remind you, the gold star resolutions are succinct and not very wordy.
But do say whereas.
They do. And therefore, be it resolved.
All right. By Greyhound, and you had originally said in British Columbia, but you had left that off on the second time.
Yeah,
So-
you can add that.
Okay.
Because we're better off as a resolution to include large areas of the province.
Should we put in northern BC?
Sure, since NCLGA is
Okay.
that region.
Northern BC. And that'll be moved by Councillor Thompson, seconder on it.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. Any further discussion? Did you get all that?
I think you've captured it, but I'll put the whereases together. There's usually a pro forma they provide, but
Yeah.
I did have a question through the chair.
Sure.
With both of these motions, did you wish the member municipalities also be copied?
That would be worthwhile,
Yeah,
as
I think
as
so.
well as, if I could, Minister Bond
Yeah, Minister.
on all of our correspondence in this regard.
Yeah, we have
Yeah, MLA Bond.
MLA bond, yeah.
Right, I keep forgetting.
I do too. Okay, so we've got the CCs. Anybody else we need to carbon copy on that one? No? All right, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Carried. And last item is a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I was gonna say, when nobody wants to leave? 8 on the dot. Okay, thank you everyone for coming out. Yeah, I got my whole entire agenda all messed up. You had some signage stuff you wanted me to do there, Claudia?
Yeah, but you can do it tomorrow. and we'll take it.
Yeah, now. Maybe now, because I think tomorrow we have, this is actually early for us.
It's because we were in meetings all afternoon.
Yeah.
Our meetings for 4 hours in the morning.
Nobody wants to argue on anything.
got 2 more evenings ahead of you.
Just get her done, yeah.
There you go.
There's no more meetings tonight, is there?
No, I think you can go home now, Errol.
No, that's exciting, isn't it?
That's exciting. I'll check my labs as I go to the morning.
Oh,